Hi guys, so today we are starting chapter 6. This is meiosis and Mendel. So we're going to talk about what meiosis was or is and how Mendel had a role in kind of understanding human genetics as we know it today. So we are in a new unit, which means we are focusing on two new unit objectives. We're focusing on the patterns of inheritance and then the structure of DNA. Our vocab words for our first section of chapter 6 all surround around chromosomes and meiosis. A somatic cell is a body cell. These are cells that make up body tissues, organs, and everything else except those that control our gametes, which are our sex cells. Gametes are sex cells. It's either an egg or a sperm. You only ever have one of these. A homologous chromosome are chromosomes that have the same length, appearance, copies of genes, even though those genes and alleles may differ. Human chromosomes, we have 23 pairs. Chromosomes 1 through 22 are something called an autosome. We'll talk about these in just a few slides. And then chromosome 23, the pair 23, is your sex chromosomes. An autosome, this is a chromosome that contains genes for characteristics that are not directly related to the sex of the organism. So how tall you are, what color is your skin, what color is your hair, what color are your eyes. Those are all autosomal traits. Autosomal traits also control our behavior and our internal anatomy as well. Your sex chromosomes are those that are directly controlling the development of sexual characteristics that define you as either a male or a female. Sexual reproduction is the process by which two gametes fuse in offspring or a genetic mixture of both parents. Fertilization is the fusion of an egg and a sperm cell. Diploid cells are cells that have two copies of each chromosome, meaning that they have 46 chromosomes inside their cells. One half of those chromosomes come from the egg and the other half come from the sperm. A haploid cell are cells that only have one copy of the chromosome. These are your gametes. Gametes specifically have half the number of chromosomes for when fusion happens. We keep our same chromosome number that defines us as what species we are. And meiosis is a form of nuclear division that divides a diploid cell into a haploid cell. This is very important for forming gametes for sexual reproductive purposes. You have those two types of cells in your body. You have your body cells or your somatic cells like skin, liver, muscle, bone, blood, anything like that. Those are your somatic cells. And then you also have a gamete, your sex cells. You either have an egg or an ova, which is the scientific term, if you are a female. You have sperm or spermatozoa if you are a male. Your body has 23 pairs of chromosomes. One copy comes from your mom that you inherited and one from your dad that you inherited. That means altogether you have 46 chromosomes. Each pair of chromosomes is referred to as a homologous pair, meaning that they have the same structure. Diploid means that you have two copies of each chromosome, and haploid means you only have one copy of each chromosome. We use meiosis to divide our cell twice so we get half the amount of chromosomes that we need to form our gametes. Meiosis is a nuclear division that divides a diploid cell twice into 4 haploid cells. This is essential for sexual reproductive purposes. Mitosis and meiosis are very similar as they are both cellular divisions. There's also big differences between the two. That mitosis, you can see, only divides once, and it results in diploid cells that are genetically identical to each other, whereas meiosis goes through 2 divisions to create 4 haploid cells that are genetically unique. And we can remember this using our disco pug. 2 divisions in meiosis and one in mitosis. We don't really worry too much about independent assortment or synapsis or crossing over. The outcome, 2 cells that are diploid and genetically identical versus 4 cells that are haploid and they are genetically unique. Let's preview some vocab for meiosis, which in our next video, we're going to physically see meiosis 1 and meiosis 2 happening together. So we're going to preview some vocab for the rest of this chapter to help make our next few videos make a little bit more sense. Gametogenesis is the process by which gametes are produced through the combination of meiosis and other maturational changes. So just because meiosis occurs doesn't mean that the body has matured enough for sexual reproduction to happen. A sperm is our male gamete and an egg is our female gamete. A polar body is something that is created during meiosis in women. It's a haploid cell produced during meiosis within the female of many species, including most mammals. These cells have little more DNA, but nothing really else. One cell from the division gets all of the organelles, and that's the cell that goes on to become an egg. Women are born with the exact number of eggs that they will need for their entire lifetime. So when a female is born, meiosis has already occurred, unlike in males that can produce sperm throughout their entire lifetime. A trait is a characteristic that can be inherited. This is something we're going to talk about a little bit more when we get into Punnett squares. Genetics is the study of heredity patterns and variation in organisms. A purebred is a type of organism whose ancestor is genetically uniform, meaning all of their DNA through their lineage is the same. A cross is the mating between 2 organisms. The law of segregation is Mendel's first law of inheritance that states 1. Organisms inherit 2 copies of each gene, 1 from each parent, and 2, that organisms can only donate 1 copy of that gene into their gamete because the genes are separated during gamete formation. A gene is a specific region of DNA that codes for a particular protein. An allele is any of the alternate forms of a gene that occur at a specific loci on a specific chromosome. Homologous is characteristic of having 2 of the same allele, either both dominant or both recessive, on the same loci on sister chromatids. Heterozygote means that you have 2 alleles, a dominant and a recessive, at the same loci on sister chromatids. A genome is the collection of all of an organism's genetic material. A genotype is that genetic makeup that codes for particular traits. Phenotype is the physical expression or the physical characteristics that you can see or understand in and of an organism. A dominant trait is a trait that is expressed even when 2 of the different alleles are present in the organism's genotype. It's a stronger gene and is able to be expressed over the recessive gene, where recessive is alleles that are not expressed unless 2 copies of them are present in the parent organ, in the organism's genotype. So that's just a little bit of a preview onto what we are going to go into in our next few videos. So our next video will be on meiosis, and then the one after that will be on Punnett squares, and all of this vocab will make a little bit more sense.